Yo, you don't even have to try hard. I'm gonna keep it a buck with you. You know what I'm saying? You do not have to try hard. Welcome to yet another episode of Said Nicely. I know it's been a minute. You miss your boy, you know what I mean? But I couldn't leave y'all hanging because the BLC's been off last week. We'll be back. By the time y'all watch this, we'll be back before you know it. But I had to give y'all some content, had to hold y'all down. So I appreciate y'all for tapping in with this episode of Said Nicely. Don't forget to like, subscribe, follow, and all that good shit. Listen, man, your boy is fresh from Medellin, okay? When people learn some new shit, it just take it too far. I used to think it was Medellin, but somebody told me it was Medellin, and so I always put the gene in it like it's Billy. But the point is bars, right? But the point is your boy is fresh from Medellin, and he's fresh. Now, by the title of this video, you're probably wondering what the fuck is a dick talking about? You know what I'm saying? How did I accidentally become a passport bro? You know what I'm saying? Which is crazy. But before we get into that, I'm gonna take you back just a little bit. In 2016, we went to Costa Rica. At that time, I think it was the last time there was an election with Trump. And, around election time, a lot of us be thinking, yo, you know what? I'm gonna go somewhere else. I'm gonna just move. I'm gonna get up out of here. Shit's about to get crazy, right? So around 2016, it wasn't just because of that, but that was part of it, right? So in 2016, we went down to Costa Rica to see what was up because we had heard expats, that was the main thing back then, right? Expats was outside going to these different places. So we went to Costa Rica. Costa Rica was cool, but to be honest, it was expensive, right? When we were looking at certain properties or whatever, it felt like we was in Atlanta, and the whole goal was to move somewhere where the cost of living was going to be cheaper. And so quickly realized that the cost of living was going to be way out, you know what I'm saying? Like somewhere out in the boonies a little bit, And at the time, we were still young, man. You know what I mean? I felt like if we were trying to retire, that might have been a different look. We obviously wasn't ready to retire like that, right? I mean, I really think at the time, yes, slower pace, but really cost of living. This is kind of even before, the pandemic and people, trying to work remote. I mean, back in 2016, I think most of us were still going to the office. So the whole idea was, how do we create a life outside the US that maybe the quality of life, is a lot higher. Maybe the cost of living is a lot lower, right? I mean, I think those are two key ingredients for the most part, right? And I'll get to that in a second. But the point is, when we got there, it wasn't quite what we thought it was going to be. And so the door was closed on Costa Rica. But, through the travails and conversations and YouTube University, of course, we had heard about Medellin. This was yet another place that people who found Costa Rica to be too expensive was moving to instead and felt like they can get a really good deal. And then the pandemic hit, right? And so everybody was on lockdown, obviously. Travel was difficult. But the one thing that happened during the lockdown was that people were able to work remotely, you know what I'm saying? And I think the whole digital nomad vibe really took off. So now people are working remote, traveling to different places. It's like, yo, can you imagine if you take how much you make here, right? It could be even $60,000, right? And you were still able to take that amount and then go somewhere else where the cost of living is like 50% off. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I mean? Everything that you could want, and you're still making the same money, but the prices of everything is like half off. You know what I'm saying? So when you start thinking about some of the digital nomads, they were going to places where the cost of living was very low, places like Thailand, but of course, Medellin, which was what the expats was doing even as far back, probably even before 2016, right? So for me, that's how I got to Medellin. Now, in the interim, you hear everything about passport bros, right? The basis of it, a lot of times from what I heard was men would go primarily for women. Men were talking about how much better they were being treated in all these other places and coming back here and kind of saying that, women weren't treating them as well here. They were more beautiful and submissive. I mean, some of those types of conversations. And people were like, nah, y'all going there for prostitution, because obviously certain spots, I think, certainly have a reputation for that as well. So I understood the passport bro conversation, even though for me, I think even before that terminology, there were guys who had their passports and they traveled. But something I ultimately realized, though, is like, when it comes to men, regardless of passport bros or otherwise, men are motivated by probably two primary things, right? Maybe a third one too, right? Money, power, and pussy. You know what I'm saying? Like, there will be niggas who will say fuck the money and fuck the power as long as they get the pussy they want. And then, you can switch around the different pieces, right? So I get why men were saying, hey man, we finna go pick up, go over here, our money's gonna stretch longer, and we're gonna be able to fuck better bitches. You know what I'm saying? Right? But again, I'm like, yo, I don't think everybody's living like that. So my boy hits me up. He's like, yo, man, he wanted to go. And he had a friend who'd already been. And of course, with Medellin, the other part is that there's like the fear factor a little bit, you know. There's a whole Pablo thing, you know what I mean? Niggas be scared they're gonna get robbed by the cartel if they wear too much jewelry and shit like that, right? And I get it, you know what I mean? But at the same time, when we finally went the first time, it was fire. It was chill. We got a chance to see the people, the mountains, the temperatures, and all that shit was amazing because it's like eternally spring, I think is what they call it. So the first time was more like, hey, let me go see what they're talking about. I think we was there for like maybe 3 or 4 days, you know what I mean? Walked around, went to the mall. Couldn't speak a lick of fucking Spanish, which kind of made it difficult to navigate. But nonetheless, though, like just catching a vibe. You know, yes, the women were beautiful, you know what I'm saying? But there's beautiful women everywhere. But at the same time, I think, you know, people just have an image of a place. And then until you finally get there, you don't really realize what's going on. But it's funny though, when we were in the line at the airport, you have all these different dudes who are in this line. Of course, people in general, but there's a perception that like, if you're gringo, you obviously are coming there to do your thing. So like in that moment, I felt like anybody looking at me was like, oh, he's a passport bro. If I'm being honest, there were conversations that were being had. The excitement in regards to the things that these gentlemen were looking for certainly was in the conversation. And I'm a guy, you know what I mean? I understand that. But at the same time, I understood just like being Black, right? People stereotype you because, hey, you're American, you must be here for that, right? Or, hey, you're a man and you must be here for that, right? That's why I'm like, yo, how did I accidentally become a passport bro? You know what I'm saying? Because for me, it was always been exploratory. Even going back to 2016, for me, I think when I went the first time, I realized the opportunity for making money. Like, I'll give you a quick example, right? So Medellin is kind of like an up and coming country, right? Or a city, but it's not far, right? So maybe it's about 10, 15 years behind us when it comes to technology. So in my head, I'm like, yo, if I can bring some of that technology or bridge the gap in certain ways that's a part of my wheelhouse, there's money there, right? And of course, the cost of living, to me, was something that's always interested in me, right? So for me, I know why I went there. You dig what I'm saying? But I understand that people are going to have a perception just because, like anything else, they hear a little bit and they perceive things without having full information. And ironically, it's something that the Colombians are dealing with when it comes to trying to attract tourism. You know what I mean? The perception that everybody out there is a part of a cartel. And the truth is, that's not the case anymore, that it's the case that Black men or Black women are ghetto and da-da-da-da-da, right? Everybody has stereotypes that we're working through. But I think it's not until you actually go to a place and actually get to know people and see what's for real, and not paying attention to everybody just talking, right? And being able to see for yourself that you'll really get a good understanding. And maybe opportunities will present themselves to you, right? So many of us are blocked off from opportunities because we have perceptions or because we're afraid of perceptions, right? For me, if I was afraid of people looking at me some type of way, then I wouldn't go, but who the fuck are they? You know what I'm saying? If I can make some bread, if I can maybe find a better quality of life for me and my family, if I can find a lower cost of living, I'm gonna do that. You know what I'm saying? I don't give a fuck what anybody else thinks. But I will say this though about my passport bros. Some of that shit is corny. Some of that shit is corny. I'm gonna keep it 100 with you because it's like the phrase, act like you've been there before, comes to mind. Listen, man, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with using your resources and being able to find what you want, right? If you want to find love, find love. You know what I'm saying? Hey, if you want to find, just get your groove on, do that too. But I think, you know, some of that shit is corny because it makes us all look bad. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can be respectful in different spaces, right? We don't have to show up with like our American, we just da-da-da-da-da. That's not cute. And I think we can respect the culture. You know what I mean? I felt bad I didn't speak enough Spanish. Upon my return, I definitely wanted to speak more Spanish. You know what I mean? And I've been working to do that. Respecting the culture in terms of the differences and how people move, right? We can appreciate the good. Sometimes we got to appreciate the bad. And some of that shit be thirsty. Thirsty. You know what I'm saying? Niggas be acting like they've never seen beautiful girls before. You know what I'm saying? Like, yo, you don't even have to try hard. I'm gonna keep it a buck with you. You know what I'm saying? You do not have to try hard. You know what I mean? Not to mention, the harder you try, the more of a mark you look, man. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just saying, I'm not trying to say don't do your thing, but be better about what you do, man, because you be having us out here looking crazy, okay? But nonetheless, though, like I said, there's a way to do things and there's a way not to do things, okay? But at the end of the day, listen, we all got to be responsible for our life, our future, and what makes us happy. So do you. You know what I'm saying? But don't let people who don't matter, perceptions of things that aren't real, that you don't know for sure, have experiences, man. You know what I mean? But shout out to my passport bros. You know what I mean? And the passport hoes. You know what I'm saying? And all the bros out here moving and shaking just to try to see what's going on the other side. But anyways, that said nicely. You already know what it is. I'll see you next time. Peace.